semester. I'm your host, Tommy Aquilina, and we've got a great show for you tonight. We'll be diving into all things baseball and taking a sneak peek at the Tokyo Olympics. And before we leave for the night, we'll be spotlighting the many talented seniors who have worked on our show, both behind and in front of the camera. So don't go anywhere, Hofstra fans. Sports Beat starts right now. Before we jump into Hofstra Baseball, I'm joined by Julianna Battaglia and Jesse Lindell. How are you guys?
The nerves are just flying right now. I'm super nervous. This is the last show of my senior year, time at Sports Beat. I'm just ready to get going and get on with it.
Me too. It's a senior show. It's a very special time for a lot of us here. And we got a lot of great things to talk about tonight. Baseball, professional, and Hofstra Baseball. And, of course, the Olympics coming up. A lot of great things to get to.
So let's dive right into things. The Hofstra baseball team has returned to action, and despite dealing with the trials and tribulations of a season tainted by COVID-19, the Pride have had a solid showing. They currently sit at 12-14 overall and 3-8 in CAA play. So my first question to you guys is, who have been some of the key performers in the early portion of North Division CAA play?
Well, I think for Hofstra, I'm definitely going with Rob Weishire on this one. He has put up an offensive showing for them. He had a homer in Game 1 of the doubleheader against Northeastern, even though they dropped that. He put up an RBI double in a game against Delaware, even though they dropped that one. But in their recent sweep of their doubleheader against Towson, he moved into 8th place on the career doubles list for Hofstra with 40, and is now alone in 9th place on the career home run list with 21. So I definitely think Weishire takes the cake for me on this one.
Weishire has definitely been a great player for this lineup, but another piece to the lineup that's been really successful is Austin Gauthier. And he's a player that I'm really excited to see succeed because last year he was off to such a great start before the COVID-19 pandemic shut the season down. But so far this year he's proven that hot start last year is not a fluke. He's hitting .368 in CAA play. That's 7th across the Colonial Athletic Association. He's getting on base 52% of the time, which is absurd. That's second in the conference, and he went 7 for 16 this last weekend against Towson, so he's really been swinging a hot bat for this team, and I just love watching him play. He's been a great player for the Pride.
So we've highlighted some of the best players for the Pride this year, but taking a look at their head baseball coach, what does this season mean for the legacy of Coach John Russo? He became the all-time winningest coach in Hofstra history earlier this year.
Well, what a title to attain for Russo. That's really something special. But I think this season is kind of like a bounce-back season for the Pride. Prior to the pandemic and the shortened season, they were 11-14 in CAA play, and they had missed the conference tournament by just a game. So that was a huge blow for them. And then they couldn't really bounce back in 2020 because the season was shortened, and they also struggled with a 4-10 record. So I think, with Russo taking that title, this is just momentum for them to go forward and have a really strong season. And as I said, come out stronger than they could have in the last 2 years.
When Coach John Russo officially took over as the head coach, he got off to a really good start. Had some up and down years mixed in between, but the team has been playing a little bit better as of late. And some great players have come through this Hofstra Pride baseball program. You look at John Rooney, who's taken in the 3rd round of the Major League Baseball draft. Most recently as well, Vito Fresia. Teddy Sillis is another guy that was drafted. And a lot of these guys, John Russo recruits, and he has a big part in these guys coming to Hofstra to play for him. So he's a great coach. He's able to develop talent, and this is just another milestone in his great Hofstra career.
Now, the Hofstra offense has had their ups and downs this year, but they have scored double-digit runs 4 times, including a program record-tying 27 runs on March 23rd against Sacred Heart. So who have been the best parts of this Pride offense?
I think it's really just been, all these multi-hit games that the offense is putting up that has been absolutely just a joy for me to watch. You mentioned that March 23rd game. 8 different players in that game had a multi-hit game. And Ryan Marash was one of them, collecting 4 hits. I mentioned Weishire before as well, but Weishire in a doubleheader game against Towson collected a 6-hit game, which was the first time Hofstra had done that since 2012. So I think the offensive showing and collecting all these multiple hits in the games is really what I've just loved to see.
You brought up the multi-hit games. Of course, the guy I mentioned earlier, Austin Gauthier, has 8 of those this year. Ryan Morash, another player that you mentioned, has 8 multi-hit games as well. And Ryan Morash has just had a great season. He's hitting .348. His bat was kind of slow when getting to the collegiate level, but it's really come around this year, and it's something that is really great for the Pride because now it's just another piece in that lineup that is able to get on base along with him, along with Weishire, along with Gauthier, and along with Anthony D'Onofrio. And they have a very strong top half of the lineup, and Morash is a very big part of that.
Now, the Pride have won 2 in a row. They beat the Towson Tigers their last 2 games, but they did lose 3 of 4 to Delaware earlier in the season. So, with the Fightin' Blue Hens coming up for a 4-game series starting this Friday, April 30th, what adjustments do the Pride have to make this time?
Well, I think it relies on their pitching for a start. You know, when you look at the way they played against Delaware last time in those few games, they lost 5-11, they lost another 5-7, lost another 9-10, and then they won one 14-4 in that blowout game. But when you look at their losses, I mean, you know, the offense is putting up 5+ runs in those games, and the pitching is just letting, you know, the opposing team pile on the runs here. So I think if the pitching can help, can get better on track to help these games not slip away, I think that'll benefit them a lot.
I agree with Julianna, and the pitching definitely has to be better later in games. They blew a 6-0 lead in the first game against Towson. They ended up losing 9-8, and they allowed 3 runs in the extras in the 10th before tying the game. Then they allowed a run in the 11th before Weishire hit a walk-off, and they scored 2 runs in the 11th. So the pitching has to be better, especially late in the game.
All right, now we're going to shift from the college field to the international pitch. And earlier this week, Eddie Fitzgerald gave us the rundown on the European Super League. Let's take a look.
Hey, Sportsbeat fans, Eddie Fitz here. What if I told you that the New England Patriots, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Los Angeles Rams, Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles, New York Jets, and New York Giants said, we're not going to play in the NFL anymore. We're not going to take any more money playing those teams. We don't want to win a Super Bowl anymore. We're going to play in our own league and have our own championship. And when we do, we're going to win a lot more money because of it. And we're going to get a lot more broadcasting rights and have everybody watch our league and have players want to play in our league. That's exactly what happened on the world football stage. I'm talking about soccer, ladies and gentlemen. The European Super League was the brainchild of Florentino Perez, who is the Real Madrid club president out in Spain. He got with a group of owners with the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, Tottenham Hotspur, Chelsea, Inter Milan, and FC Barcelona. He said, hey guys, come inside and let's make our own league. Let's have a team, 15 teams in this league. Let's not have anybody ever get kicked out of this league. And the winner of this league will make over $400 million for their club. They'll get extreme broadcasting rights and they'll go and play games in India, China, Australia, the United States, and Mexico. They would go all over the world and expand their brand recognition. Now, this got shut down because it was widely criticized by fans, players, coaches, pretty much anybody who was not an owner of a club. And it got so bad to the point that fans protested outside of Stamford Bridge in Chelsea ahead of a cup game, saying no more Super League. And the club listened. They pulled out of the Super League, and once that domino fell, all of them began to fall in behind them. One thing I also want to make clear is that there are only 2 clubs left. Barcelona and Real Madrid are the remaining teams left in the projected Super League of 2021. One final thing I want to make clear as well is that in these German clubs who did not join the Super League, I'm talking about Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich, they are majority owned by the fans, by the players, by the club. That is the rule called the 50+1 rule, which is required for teams to play in the German Bundesliga. That's why they didn't join the Super League. And lastly, why should you care? Because this could happen here. We have many powerful owners. We have multi-million-dollar, billionaire, trillionaire owners here inside of the United States. And they could get together and say that they want to make the most money as possible. And if they can't, they will. Because they don't care about the fans. You shouldn't hold these players responsible. You shouldn't stop supporting your clubs. But what you should do is never forget what these owners can do, because they are powerful and they will hold the almighty dollar over the games that you care about the most.
A big thank you to our one and only Eddie Fitz for those hot takes. Now let's dive into the Olympics. For the uninitiated, the rescheduled 2020 Tokyo Olympics will now be taking place starting July 21st. The United States women's national soccer team was put into Group G, along with Australia, New Zealand, and Sweden. The U.S. lost to Sweden during the 2016 Olympics in the quarterfinals on penalty kicks. So, my first question to the two of you is, with the rematch between the U.S. and Sweden and the 2016 gold medalists Germany failing to qualify, what storyline is most intriguing to you?
Well, I think you cannot miss the history between the U.S. and Sweden here. I mean, they met in 2016, and we know that that wasn't pretty. Obviously, as you said, Sweden had defeated the U.S. on penalties in the quarterfinals. They handed the U.S. their first Olympic loss in 16 years in that one, and kept them from reaching the gold medal match for the first time since the debut of the sport in the Olympics. And comments were made, that was not pretty. And so I think with all that charged energy here, the U.S. women's team is definitely setting out to get a little bit of revenge, but also make some history here by being the first team to win the Olympic gold after winning the World Cup. And having to do that against Sweden, I think it's going to be pretty interesting.
I definitely look forward to this rematch as well. Revenge is definitely on the mind of the U.S. National Women's Soccer team. When you have a bad loss like that in 2016, like they did, and especially having to wait an extra year because of the COVID pandemic, the Olympics were pushed back a year, so they had an extra year with that tough loss on their mind, and it should be a great storyline to watch, and I could definitely see the U.S. With all the revenge on their mind and the momentum from winning the 2019 World Cup coming away victorious in that one.
So the U.S. is in Group G, as I mentioned, but now do you think Group F, containing Brazil, China, the Netherlands, and Zambia, or Group E, made up of Canada, Chile, Great Britain, and Japan, will feature the better matches?
Well, I'm going to have to go with Group F here, and the answer is not as elaborate as you'd think. It's really just because I want to see Brazil. Brazil always puts up a great fight. They've won the most soccer World Cups of all time with 5, going all the way back to the 50s. That might seem like, not a fitting answer, but who doesn't want to watch Brazil?
I definitely have to agree with Julianna there. Brazil is basically associated with soccer. You have baseball with Japan, American football with the United States, and Brazil soccer. It's kind of that association. They're always a fun team to watch. The Netherlands as well is also a very solid team, and I definitely want to see that group play, and especially because of Brazil. Any group that they're in, it makes that group take the cake.
Now, we've talked about the World Cup and some of the winning that teams have done in that tournament, but Olympic gold has only been won by 3 U.S. women's teams, or 3 women's teams, the U.S. and then 2 European teams, Norway and Germany. This year, only 2 European teams qualified, so is this the year that the field claims gold over Europe and the U.S.?
Well, I'm definitely going to have to say in terms of the U.S. that I know we spoke a lot about the revenge game here, but I think I might have to count them out in this one, and that's just because, Sweden has given them an absolute run for their money, especially when Coach Konefsky took charge for the U.S. They nearly blew a 3-0 lead to Sweden in Konefsky's debut as the coach. And then 2 weeks ago, Sweden was minutes away from ending the U.S.'s unbeaten run, but was forced to settle for a draw in that one. And so I think it's going to be extremely challenging for them. And for that reason, I'm going to have to count the U.S. out.
I have to disagree because I think that the U.S. has the momentum riding in from winning the World Cup a couple of years ago, and I think that they're a lot better off now. I think that they're healthier. I think that they still have that game on their mind, especially because Megan Rapinoe was kind of banged up, didn't have her best performance in that game. But players like her and other women on the team are definitely going to try to come together and win the gold medal for the U.S. And I think that it's honestly theirs to lose.
Now, we could talk about soccer all night long, but there are also going to be 6 new sports at the Olympics this year. Baseball and softball will be returning, and 4 sports will be making their Olympic debuts this summer. So, out of those 4, skateboarding, surfing, sport climbing, and karate, which one are you most looking forward to?
Well, I know for me, it's definitely skateboarding. I mean, I used to watch the X Games as a kid. I had every single Tony Hawk video game. I just have been always a huge fan of skateboarding. And, not even aside from my own love for it, I think that putting it in the Olympics can change the perception a bit of the sport, take it out of this kind of view of it as a recreational hobby or a street game, and give it kind of some notoriety and respect that it deserves. And it might draw in some new viewership as well, as a lot of millennials have gotten on board with skateboarding. So I'm excited to see what it adds to the games.
I'm excited to see karate. I remember growing up when I was 10 or 11 years old, the Karate Kid movie with Jaden Smith came out. Of course, there's the one that was made all the way back in the 80s, and those Karate Kid movies were great to watch. And I'm really looking forward to watching karate on a grand stage like the Olympics.
Great talking about the Olympics with you guys, but it wouldn't be right to have all three of us on the show without discussing the MLB. So, jumping right into it, again, a 162-game baseball season for 2021. There have been no shortage of storylines this year, and one of them has been Jacob deGrom continuing his dominance from the last 3 years. Just this past Friday, he threw his second career shutout and got a new career high with 15 strikeouts. Guys, can he get any better? And when are the Mets going to score some runs for him?
Well, this is just becoming a trend here for deGrom. This is his style, right? To just continuously set the bar higher for himself and then beat it. If you go back to 2019 when he won his second straight Cy Young, and then you go fast forward to now when he set a new MLB record with 50 strikeouts in his first 4 starts. I think this is just kind of the pattern of the way that he's playing. And what's unfortunate about deGrom is that when you go back to that 2018 season he had, which, his play now is kind of an extension of that, he had a 10-9 record, and that was largely due to the fact that his offense just doesn't produce when he's out on the mound. And I can't say that they will based on the track record that exists, but if he keeps going out there and putting up the starts that he's putting up, I think he gives them a chance to at least do that.
What really baffles me is that a two-time Cy Young Award winner since 2018, the Mets have a losing record in his starts, which absolutely baffles me. But he's been off to such a great start this year, just 1 earned run on the year in his 4 starts. But going off to Julianna's point, he's only 2-1 in those games. And that's kind of why the win-loss record, or the win-loss stat, is not really as valued in baseball anymore. He's been getting it done on the mound, but also at the plate. He's 6 for 11 with 2 runs batted in, only 2 strikeouts. So on the mound and when he's in the batter's box, he's been getting the job done. And he's been one of the best players in baseball for the last couple of years.
Now, the Mets are playing pretty well right now. They're near the top of the NL East, but the Yankees got off to a slow start, losing 10 of their first 15 games. So if the Bronx Bombers are going to get where they want to go, what needs to change?
I absolutely think that some of this starts in their offense. Pretty much everyone in this lineup right now is scuffling real bad, but I want to point out one person that I think, if he gets it together, maybe it'll help the rest get on track, and that's DJ LeMahieu. He's got a .250 batting average right now. He's an extreme contact hitter, so he's not striking out much, if at all. But what he is doing wrong is just rolling over lots of hittable pitches. He's putting a tons of balls on the ground right now, and that's really snapping his power capability. In his last 17 at-bats, he had 11 ground balls. And I think if he finds his way at the plate, and soon, he can really wear out the outfield with the line drives that we're so used to seeing and those occasional home runs.
I definitely have to agree about the point with DJ LeMahieu. This is a guy that just got a 6-year deal before the start of the season. He's been a player that's either continued rallies or got the big hit when they needed him to, and he has been doing that so far. He's been rolling over a lot of pitches, either into a fielder's choice to end the inning or an inning double play, whatever the case may be. And when you have guys like him, Giancarlo Stanton, who gets $300 million, and a whole bunch of other players in the lineup, you have to play better than what they're doing right now. They're fourth worst in runs scored, but also the rotation. I would say outside of Garrett Cole, the rotation's been up and down. Corey Kluber finally got through 5 innings last night, the first time he's done that with the Yankees. So you're looking for other guys besides Garrett Cole to step up in the rotation to go along with the offense as well.
2 teams that have gotten off to good starts have been the Los Angeles Dodgers, the defending world champions, and the San Diego Padres. And this year, they've established themselves as 2 of the best teams in baseball. So how can MLB benefit from these 2 teams that are in the same division, playing each other 19 times each just in the regular season?
I think the benefit here is that every time you see these 2 teams play, It's been just absolutely so exciting to watch. I mean, the amount of effort that's put in here on the Padres' part, they're going up against the Dodgers, one of the best teams in baseball. The Padres themselves sit in fourth in their division, but the way they've managed to keep all of these games against them so interesting has just been an absolute joy. One game I caught, the finale they had on Sunday, when the Dodgers were up by 6 runs, the Padres were down to the final 9 outs of the game. They battled all the way back and took that game in extras. So, I think it's just that real, the team is really stepping up and really putting in the effort and really making these games super close. And I think on the fans' end, that's super exciting to watch, albeit very exhausting for the players.
I think this right now is the best rivalry in Major League Baseball. The Yankees and Red Sox have kind of taken a bit of a step back, but we're already seeing 2 great teams. The Dodgers were in the World Series last year. The Padres having this great youth movement mixed with some great veterans on the team. And they're both in the same division, the NL West, and they've been playing some great games so far. And I point out the incident with Tatis and Trevor Bauer. Of course, Tatis looking in at the sign. And it's moments like that that really just make this rivalry great right now.
So now really quickly, last thing I want to go over is the Oakland A's. They started the season 1-7, then they ripped off a 13-game winning streak. Is the Astros' run of dominance in the AL West finally over?
I think it could be. If you look at the way the Athletics played last year, they did win the AL West, even though that was a shortened season. But what we've seen the Athletics do really well thus far is rearrange their team here. When their bullpen started to step up, and they allowed 2 or fewer runs in 11 of their last games, we kind of saw the offense follow that lead. We saw a team rearrange themselves in a way that's helped them play better. And that could help them over a team like the Astros, who's kind of had it set for a while,
It's not over for the Astros until they just stop making the playoffs. Remember, this team was 1 game away from the World Series last year. That was with Verlander getting hurt. They don't have Springer now, so it's going to be a little bit challenging, but the Astros are still a team to beat unless proven otherwise.
Now, before we say our goodbyes for the night, let's take a moment to celebrate all of the talented seniors who have worked on this show.
We are at war with a virus, and healthcare troops and first responders are on the front line fighting it every day. Let's join the fight by staying home. Staying home is not a retreat. It's the most brave and aggressive weapon we have against this enemy. Because when we do stay at home, we help prevent overwhelming our hospitals while buying time for our scientists to find the vaccine. And that is how we beat it.
I was asked to deliver a few words about my time with SportsBeat, and I must admit, it was difficult to come up with them. I've loved my time here at SportsBeat, having gotten a later start here because I came into Hofstra and immediately began working at Hofstra's renowned radio station, WRHU. But that late start was well worth the wait, as I have loved being a part of the SportsBeat family. Few things give me as much joy as being on set and getting to talk about Hofstra and professional sports. I've been able to grow my skill set and my confidence while getting to work with a bevy of talented and professional students, many of whom have already graduated and gone on to do exciting things. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown all of us for a loop, but it has also made me even more thankful for my time on camera here at Hofstra. A special thanks to all the behind-the-scenes people at SportsBeat who do the most important work on a broadcast. And another thank you to the great friends I've had the pleasure of working with on SportsBeat. You know who you are, and I'm very thankful for my time spent with you. I will be attending graduate school at Hofstra in the fall, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for me, both at Hofstra and outside of the community. I also don't quite want to say specific goodbyes yet because of that, so instead, I'll just say thank you for tuning in over the years, and I'll talk to you again sometime soon.
It has been a wonderful 4 years with the Heat Network and being a part of SportsBeat. I remember back when I first auditioned as a freshman, staring at the desk from afar, and I just couldn't imagine I'd ever end up sitting behind it anchoring a show. You know, it's been a dream of mine since I was young, and to leave saying that I got to do that is just surreal to me. I still say I've just been very lucky in getting here, but there are so many people I'd like to thank for helping me along the way. First, thank you to my parents for always believing in me and supporting me, even when I didn't believe in myself, and to all of my friends, my colleagues, those on the camera, those behind the scenes, thank you for all of your support. And I hope that I've been able to offer you the same. And thank you so much to our faculty advisor, Dr. Peter Gershon, for giving me those little words of motivation in between the shoots, especially when I was young and I was still so new at this. It really meant a lot. It's been such a pleasure working with all of the amazingly talented crew members who worked so hard to put all of this together. It's been just a joy watching what you guys can do in such a short amount of time. And lastly, thank you to the producers of the show, Ben and Emily, for giving me the opportunities I've had with this show and for being so fair and encouraging. Emily, our work relationship goes back a long way. It's been a joy working and growing with you through these years. You've been a champion for me, personally, professionally. You deserve all the best in your own career. And with that, I'm bidding my farewell and wishing SportsBeat all the best in the future.
It's been a great 4 years here at Hofstra. SportsBeat has been very fun, and it's been amazing working with everyone here in the studio. I want to thank Ben Kessler and Emily Bradbury for giving me the opportunity to participate on the show. They've been very helpful during this process and have been excellent producers. The pandemic has been tough on us all, but they were still able to lead effectively and put out great content. To all the cameramen and women and all the people in the control room, thank you. You've done a great job this year. And now it's time for the family. I first need to thank my mom and dad for allowing me to come to Hofstra University in the first place. They paid a lot of money to help me go to college, and I hope that I'm able to repay them and assure them that it was all worth it. My sister Mallory, you've been a big part of my life, and you're the best big sister someone could have. I know I can come to you if I have anything to talk about, and I love you. Grandma and Grandpa, next time you see me, I will be a college graduate. It's been too long because of this awful pandemic, but I can't wait to see you guys soon. To everyone that will be here next year, continue to take in every moment and treat each show like it's your last. I know it's cliche, but these 4 years have absolutely flew by. But I love my time here and I don't regret a thing. And I'm happy that SportsBeat has been a part of my college journey.
And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for the final episode of SportsBeat for the spring 2021 semester. I want to thank my panelists, Julianna Battaglia and Jesse Lindell, for joining me, and Eddie Fitzgerald for his Super League package. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at HofstraSB, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch all of our episodes and packages. Tune in next semester for an all-new year of episodes. I've been your host, Tommy Aquilina. Thank you, and have a great night.